City Council to order for Thursday, September 2nd, 2021. Thank you, everyone. And the first item that we have is the late items, and we did have a number of letters and messages that were sent. So I would ask at this time if we can have a motion to accept those late items for inclusion in today's agenda. Councilor
Moved, Councilor Wilbur.
Move that we include the late items.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councilor Earl?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And so they will be included in our agenda. Any new councilor business for today? Anyone have anything they want to raise? Thank you. So I want to begin first before we go to our correspondence is really to the reason obviously for today's meeting was as a result of the new recent public health orders that were issued. And I think there's a level of expectation in for some in our community that want to know what and how the city are going to be dealing with and handling these orders as it relates to the city's position in terms of the operation of our city facilities. And so I felt it was very important for us to be able to have this meeting today, to be able to ensure that people understand the abilities and the authorities that exist within the city and the community charter for us to make certain decisions as it relates to the Public Health Act, of which the public health orders are given by the province of British Columbia. And so from that perspective, I wanted to ensure that, one, we had that discussion for and in the public so people understand what it is and how we are able to handle that. And then to be able to give our administration the opportunity to really give us an overview of kind of what are the impacts of the public health orders as it relates to the operations of those facilities. And then at the end of this today, we have two decisions that we are able to make as it relates to the operation of facilities within the city under the public health orders. And really those two decisions are, do we operate the facilities with the protocols that are in place under those public health orders, or do we close them? We don't have the ability as an incorporated city by the province of British Columbia to deviate from those public health orders other than not to operate them. So I really wanted to kind of give that as an opening for folks to understand how and what the abilities of any city, not just the city of Dawson Creek, but any city have while operating under those incorporation and the community charter that exists from and under the province of British Columbia. And so first I want to move to then our first item under this is item 4 is 4.1 is the correspondence. We have an email from Aaron Oliver with the overview of the operations of the facility. So with that, I want to turn it over to Blair, and maybe you can give us an update on that.
All right. Well, thank you, Your Worship, and good afternoon, Council, members in the gallery. So today what we will try and do is give you, as you said, the best information that has been shared with us to date from the province. This seemed to have really arisen after our Parks and Rec department sent out an email a couple of days ago to try and share the information that was being shared thus far from the province. There was certainly concern expressed when people interpret it, and most of what's going on and coming from the province right now could be a lot clearer. So interpretation is sometimes not a healthy thing. So there were people that interpreted that my child could not play unless they mandated them to be vaccinated. They didn't define youth recreation. They have now, and we will have an update from Aaron. So it was to the point where if you were 12 and above and you were to come into our facilities, our recreation, I'll use our arena for example, or our pool, you would have to show proof of vaccination. But if you were coming in as a youth to play hockey, 12 and over, as youth, defined as youth, you didn't have to. That's what's been cleared up today from a call we were on, I'm going to say a half hour ago or so. But I had a couple of calls. The people I spoke to, very respectful, said, look, this is where it's at. We will update you as quickly as we can. But then it became evident that although our Parks and Rec were trying to share positive, what I would consider positive news, which is anything you get right now from the government, so people aren't caught off guard, there was a lot of interpretation going on. So at this point, I think the issue is not a municipal bylaw issue or something we can deal with. Under the community charter, which is a permissible piece of legislation that we operate under as communities, we have to adhere to the law. It's not an option. I've had people say, what would happen if you didn't? Well, you violate the community charter immediately, and I'm certain that there would be healthy consequences legally for the community. So that's not a decision of your CAO or anybody else. It's written in, I believe it's Division 2 under Section 10, under relationships and powers with the province. So our Parks and Rec Department certainly primarily impacted here with our arenas, our swimming pool, the event center, for example, or Lakota Center. So we are trying to get the clearest information we can. You know, I don't want to point fingers, but I certainly would say the clarity has been lacking, and that has led to, I think, the concerns that many people are expressing today. But Aaron, do you want to share anything further? The one thing I will say is the email that went out from Parks and Recreation was meant with the best of intention to try and say, look, here's what we've got from the provincial government thus far. We'll keep you updated. It came very evident that some people had misinterpreted it, and it maybe could have been clearer, so no doubt there. An email went out immediately following that. Unfortunately, once an email is shared, the second email is not shared. I'm not a social media guy, so I don't go see it. But I would answer any questions, but Aaron, if you want to add anything to what I've stated thus far.
Sure. Is this working? So through your worships, so from being on the call, and the call was with BCRPA, which is British Columbia Recs and Parks Association, as well as the Deputy PHO, who is Dr. Emerson. We did get some clarification. We still are waiting for more, but the biggest thing is the clarification of what it meant by youth sport. And what that is K to 12. So that will be included. We did ask if that includes coaches and volunteers. We did not get an answer for that yet, so that will still have to come. But at least we have a spot of where we can start. And the difference, as they said, is spectator versus children in sport is that they do not want to hinder youth development, so that's why that was exempted, so that they wanted, and that it also includes arts and culture as well. And then as to the follow-up of that, the remainder of that email, if it's all right for just to make some clarification, when we asked our user groups to also how they would host the new orders, that has been something that has been continued on from the first COVID plans that all of these users had to share with us. So that's where that came from, is that as they move to their communicable disease plan, that as orders change, those things do evolve as well. So that's where that came. And again, it was just trying to be helpful that we gave them enough time to make sure that changes are made, as well as if they needed our assistance, that I would have been more than happy to talk to anybody and help them out in that regards.
Thank you, Aaron. So first of all, I will throw it out to council if anybody has any questions of Blair or Aaron in regards to this first step. Councillor Dober.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just had one, like, reading through the emails and letters, like, you know, clearly we're all human and we make mistakes. So it's, you know, it does say, like, that all participants must have proof. So I could see where the confusion would be, but, you know, whether I agree with any of this or not, it's not up to question. It's just, you know, we're human and we make mistakes, so if we do, we shouldn't be, like, bombarded with stuff about it. It's a clear mistake that health order says youth sports are exempt from it, so yeah, I just wanted to say that, because when I was reading it, I seen that, so.
And I think that was part of it that we've clarified now, because that wasn't clear, that originally that our recreation sports that would be the kids going to the arena would have to have proof of vaccination at 12 years old and older, and we've clarified that now that is not the case. So.
And then So I just had one other thing. Did they say at all, like on your call, when they're gonna be sending more information? Because these dates are coming up soon, like, so that there's enough time for the city to plan, not the last minute like we get often.
Okay, so through your worship, so on the call, we did run out of time. So what is happening is any of our other questions, Dr. Emerson was more than happy to take all our concerns, and he's going to take them back to the PHO, and they are going to discuss them, but he did, and send us back his responses, but he did not give us a date.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions for administration staff? Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, just want to make sure I understand what's being said. So youth is K to 12, and the passport issue, vaccination issue is not applicable to that grouping.
So through your worship, the explanation is for children directly in the sport. So yes, so they will not have to show their
Right.
vaccination. However, if a child is coming into our facility to observe or be a spectator, as they are not in the sport, which is what they're trying to keep children in, they would have to show their ID.
Right, thank you. That was going to be my second question. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to staff. I agree with the sentiment expressed. Obviously, in an information vacuum, people will fill in the blanks themselves, and that's been an ongoing challenge throughout this entire scenario. Libraries, how's that going to work? Simply because, you know, you're a spectator and a participant when you're reading books.
So through your worship, that actually the part about that, so as I was typing up my notes as fast as I could while the doctor was speaking, that part actually should be part is that we actually did ask for clarification of that because it was unclear as to why they chose libraries separate from sport or, you know, as to not being vaccinated. So yeah, so we are waiting for an answer for why libraries were chosen as not to prove vaccination.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Blair?
Your
Go ahead.
Worship, another significant question that came on a couple of the people I talked to, as well as I think Aaron, is from people that, well, I'll use whether it be minor hockey, whether it be SEALs, any of the user groups. Previously, during the mask mandate, they needed their protocol written for the organizations. They also then at that point would check, you know, I have children or grandchildren in it, so we would go there. There would be a parent at the door saying, please ensure your mask is on, you know, all of that. Yeah, away you go. We would go into the arena and watch the grandchildren when we still could. The question now is saying, are we going to have to ask for vaccine passports, or is that the city? Nothing has changed. It would be the user groups unless we receive direction to the contrary from yourselves. It would be the user groups that would maintain that responsibility as they did under their COVID plan, which is now transitioning to a communicable disease plan. But that question was out there, and I know some people are very uncomfortable with that. But, you know, our direction right now is the same as it was with the mask mandate. If you are the user group, it would be your responsibility to require that and ask that. So, just for information for Mayor and Council, if you've had questions on it or if the direction is changing.
So we have, just so I can clarify, we have the facilities that are impacted by the city facilities that are operated by, impacted by this for us that we operate, that we have to make this decision. The rink, the Kembark Aquatic Center, the Lakota Center, the Calvin Cook Performing Arts Center with, even though it's under a lease with the operating group, the Ovinto Event Center and the library. Is that the 6 facilities that would be impacted by this? And the art gallery?
The art gallery,
library.
but the library apparently is exempt. According to the conversation that was just had earlier today, they are deemed as an essential. That's the only way I can word it, where they will not need proof of vaccination to enter a library is what we've been told.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Aaron?
Through your worship, also, the curling rink would also be included in
Thank
there.
you. And so Blair, to your point, we lease the facilities to the user groups, like the curling rink have a lease agreement. Minor hockey have an agreement to lease the facility or rent the facility from us. Figure skating, speed skating, and they, when they're operating it, would then come up and develop their own protocol for their own communicable disease plan, and then would be responsible for the administration of that.
Yes, that.
Good. Thank you. Any other questions on that for staff? Councillor Parslow?
Yes, just, this may be an obvious answer, but for the sake of clarity, so at a private sports group, there's a couple of private dance groups here in the town, Taekwondo and things like that. They would have to assume the same responsibilities as the user groups of the city facilities, correct?
Through your worship, so my understanding is that they are a business, and so if they are under Sport BC, where we do fall under BCRPA as well as Via Sport, if they are doing that, they need to refer to Via Sport and to their sport directly on how they are going to manage these issues.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Parslow?
Nothing.
Any other questions on Aaron's email? Could we have a motion to receive that email, please? Councillor Dober, second Councillor Earl. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Next item, 4.2, we have a letter from Tara Faganello, the Assistant Deputy Minister of the province, in regards to the recently approved vaccination and mask requirements. So maybe we can have a motion to receive for discussion. I don't like doing that, but Councillor Dober, Councillor Earl. Blair, can you give us an update on that?
This really, the letter that you see before you, and I think it came out, it really relays what we have just talked about. And again, Tara, when I actually had reached out to her by email, they are still working at some clarity themselves. That's why there's still a little vagueness in this as well, I think it would be fair to say. Quite self-explanatory through this, just laying out here are the requirements, here's where we're at. The future, the one thing that I think was clear to me, and this I'm sure won't be received well, but there's probably more to come, whether we like it or not. That is not a council position or an individual. This is a provincial health order that we're operating under and mandated to, but it appears that all indications are that we're having this talk today based on the information we have, but additional information for clarity on this issue will be coming, but possibly some future restrictions or could be possible. Which then, again, not the city of, I can't be clearer. These are not the city of Dawson Creek restrictions. This is a provincial health order that we're mandated under the piece of legislation that we operate under that we have to adhere to. So there is confusion, I think, in the public on, I think sometimes levels of jurisdiction, whether it be federal, provincial, or municipal. This is a provincial mandate that we are having to follow. So,
thank you. Does anybody have any questions about that in terms of water and how this is unfolding and any impacts to us in terms of questions that you may have of administration on that new recently announced protocol? Darcy? Councillor Dover?
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess just one, we can all have our opinions on this, but really, from the city's point of view and from my personal point of view, I have businesses that are have taken the biggest hit that industry has in this whole pandemic, but the alternative to this is really closing everything, right? Is it?
yeah, again, I don't want to speak for the province, but as I would understand it, do they take you back to, was it phase 2 where they closed everything? That would be their option, and again, but that, if you were to say, if we do this, you can stay open. If you don't do this, what is the alternative? As the mayor said earlier, for the city of Dawson Creek, if we didn't want to look for vaccine passports, we didn't want to do that, your alternative is to close the facilities. That way you wouldn't be in a position to have to ask as the city of Dawson Creek. Now, how the public would receive that, I don't know. That would be up to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor? With that, I want to go to Mayor's business. And so we have had some discussion about this, and I think the thrust of today for me was really about saying, well, here's administration, here's what we have to do in order to operate these facilities under our public health protocols. That's the direction I think Council has always taken. We adhere to those public health protocols, and we have taken that over the last year and a half. And I think the only thing I'm looking for now is a direction from Council in terms of, do you want to make a motion that would deviate from that direction that we have established? Or is that the direction that administration will go with from here? In other words, are we going to continue to operate the facilities with the protocols, or are we going to close them? Councillor Javetka?
To get it on the floor as a topic, I'll make a motion that we continue to operate the facilities in compliance with the public health order.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Parslow. Discussion? Go ahead, Councillor
Yeah, so, you know, I've heard that I think the general consensus of the people that are outside and the people that are in here is that they would like Mayor and Council to take a stand and support their cause. To me, these are individual cause, to me it's an individual cause. I may support vaccinations or I may not, but that's something that's personal with me. And I'm not a business owner, but I do get involved with the ski hill as a volunteer. And I probably put in more time as a volunteer at the ski hill than some of you put in at your business. So to me, this Mayor and Council is here to operate the business of the city. And the business of the city is self-explanatory. It's streets and facilities and that type of thing. And that's on behalf of the taxpayers of the city. That's who funds this operation. And the taxpayers, some of them may be supportive of you know, the cause that's been expressed here, and some of them may not be. So the Mayor and Council, I don't feel, should be acting as a lobby group for any one particular side. I think it's fair to pass on the concerns that have been expressed here. I think those concerns have already been passed on. There's huge protests in Vancouver, down the Okanagan. So I think the province, where this stuff stems from, they've heard the concerns already. We can, you know, pass on that we were represented here by you people, and for the good that that does, I don't know. But as far as the facilities go, to me, there are people that are vaccinated and want to use the facilities, and they have concerns of mixing with people that aren't vaccinated for fear of getting the virus. So it's, you know, it's something that we need to be realizing what our role is. It is to operate the facilities, comply with the rules, which in effect are laws. The public health officer has the right to make an order that is considered a law. And I don't think the city, well, the city obviously through the charter hasn't got any authority not to comply. So anyways, I would like to see us continue operating the facilities, and you know, at some point we might have to reconsider, but at this point I think you know, we have to play this out as sort of inconvenient and as tough it is, as it is to do.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dober?
Thank you, Worship. This might be to staff, but I guess, you know, the difference between us operating facilities and the private sector is the private sector can choose to do what they want and they will, you know, either face fines or not. But being like a municipal, you know, business, I guess, like, what would happen if, you know, the arena didn't follow? Like, does the government just shut it down? Like, because, you know, it's different, right, than the private sector, clearly. But
Blair?
I don't have an exact answer for you, Councillor Dober, on that. It's not something in my 30-plus years of involvement in government at both local level as well as provincial I've experienced, or even it's come. That's new. We could find out. I could certainly give you some of my thoughts on that. I would expect that they would come in. They would fine you, as they would anyone else. I don't think they would treat you differently. They would shut your facility down. And then any transfer payments that you may or may not have coming from the provincial government, I think would probably be a pretty big stick they may use. But again, it's hypothetical at this point. I could, should council wish me to go through, you know, to find that, I will work on that. But I think I'm pretty confident in saying, should a municipality opt to go against the community charter, which is the law we work under, whether people like that or not, it is the law we work under, I think we would be shut down very quickly.
We aren't an individual entity like a business. We're an entity created and enabled by the province of British Columbia through that community charter. And so legally, I don't think we could direct our administration to create a bylaw that would operate contrary to the legislation, the law, or those orders. So legally, I don't think we could direct our staff to do that.
that's what I was kind of getting at. Like, I don't, you know, it's different with the municipality. We can't
For sure.
bend, right?
Yeah.
So,
For Councillor, who have I got next? Councillor Earl, then Councillor Parslow.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to everybody who presented here today. I appreciate this is not a place anybody wanted to end up at, myself included. To Councillor Dober's point about potential consequences if the public health, if Northern, you know, I look at Rotary Lake, and if they feel it's unsafe, they'll shut it down and they won't let us open it again. I would refer to the previous provincial government where the Vancouver School Board refused to balance their budget and the Minister of Education fired them, essentially. I'm not sure if they'd be willing, but the point I'm trying to drive home is that this is within the province's purview. So the issue for us now is, you know, do we shut the facility or do we allow it to continue operating to benefit those who are able to benefit from it? And to Councillor Javetkov's point, we or the mayor was mentioned earlier, we spend $6 to $7 million a year on recreation and cultural services, and to have to mothball it is, I don't think, realistic. So, but I did want to thank everybody for their time here today. This has certainly been a deflating couple months for everybody who hoped we would seen the worst of the pandemic and we were on our way out. To be back in it is tremendously disheartening. So I appreciate where you're coming from, and I wish there were more good options available to us. It looks like we're only looking for the least bad option at the moment, though.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow.
You know, Councillor Earl covered the points about the government's actions with other local governments, and they removed the elected body and put a bureaucrat in to run it on their behalf. So I imagine they do the same thing in the municipal government. And I'd also be concerned about transfer of funds. So that's all I was going to say.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur, Councillor Kempf, do you have any comments? Okay, thank you. Any further comments? You ready for the question?
Excuse me, Your
Sorry.
Worship.
Yeah.
Councillor Wilbur is disconnected, and we're just going to try and reconnect her before the vote.
Oh, okay.
Councillor Wilbur, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, thank you.
Thank you, Shaylee, Councillor Wilbur. So we now have had discussion on the motion. Councillor Wilbur, did you have any comments, or I wasn't sure if you got lost before we did that or not?
Sorry, you cut out?
Do you have any comments, Shaylee, Councillor Wilbur, on the motion?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. So you ready for the question, Council? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. And finally, for media question, and I thought I saw Rob here early. Is he still here?
Sure, I'll check, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Any other business administration? You have anything further?
Nothing to report, Your Worship.
Council? Councillor Earl?
I just note, and I don't imagine it warrants another special meeting, but it does appear in the time we've been having this meeting that the public health officer has rolled out some additional stuff. So
I would assume that that will kick in next week, and then we have a council meeting the following week, and so that'll give our staff some opportunity to deal with whatever that changes may come as a result of that, and we'll have it on for our next council meeting.
Yes, Your Worship, apparently they have just come out with the new measures introduced for Northern Health that will be effective at 12:01 a.m. Tuesday, September 7th.
Okay. So we'll have next week to deal with that, and then we'll have it on our agenda item for the following Monday. Thank you, Council. Thank you to Gallery, to Ty and Matt, Aaron, Donna. Thank you guys for coming today, and to the other folks that addressed Council. Thank you. Motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Dober, Councillor Earl. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Council.